Daniel had once dreamed of building a life filled with laughter and love. Years ago, he had everything: a promising career as a graphic designer, a small apartment in the city, and a woman named Emily Harper who loved him fiercely. They had met in college, two dreamers who believed that love could conquer everything. But life had other plans. Emily's family was wealthy, powerful, and protective. They never approved of Daniel, the boy with ambition but no fortune. When Emily's father found out they planned to marry, he forced her to leave the country to complete her business studies abroad, severing all ties with Daniel. He had waited, written letters that were never answered, and when he finally realized she wasn't coming back, his heart had shattered into pieces he never learned to put back together. Years later, Daniel married someone else, a woman who seemed kind at first, but left him when things got hard. Their daughter, Lily, was the only light left in his life. She had Emily's smile, though she had never met her. Daniel often wondered if that resemblance was fate's cruel joke or secret mercy. He worked long hours at a local printing shop, juggling bills, rent, and Lily's school fees. His hands were always covered in ink, his back ached every night, but his heart never gave up. That evening, Daniel was at the cafe, because he couldn't afford to fix the heater in his small apartment. He had promised Lily a hot cocoa after school, and the cafe was the only warm place they could sit for an hour before heading home. Lily was in the restroom, humming softly, her little pink backpack hanging by their table. Daniel's eyes were distant, filled with silent calculations. How to stretch his last paycheck, how to explain to Lily that her Christmas gift might be late this year. Across the room, Emily Harper, now Emily Hayes, sat quietly with her assistant, reviewing some reports on her tablet. Years had transformed her from the young girl Daniel once knew into a woman of power and elegance. She was now the CEO of one of the largest design firms in the city, a company she had built from the ground up after inheriting nothing from her family. She had worked through sleepless nights, countless rejections, and heartbreaks she never confessed. The one wound that had never healed was Daniel. The man she was told had moved on long ago. Her father had hidden his letters, burned some, and lied that Daniel had married someone else before she even left. By the time she found out the truth, it was too late. Or so she thought. When Lily came running out of the restroom and called, "Daddy! Look, they gave me marshmallows," Emily froze. The sound of that voice, that word, "Daddy," echoed through her heart like a bell from another lifetime. She turned slowly and saw him. Daniel. Older, thinner, with streaks of gray at his temples, but still unmistakably him. His eyes were tired, yet kind. The same eyes she had fallen for all those years ago. For a moment, Emily couldn't breathe. Memories flooded back, their long walks by the river, his laughter, his sketches of her face in the park. She wanted to run to him, but something stopped her. She watched quietly as Daniel helped Lily stir her cocoa, smiling softly at his daughter, love radiating from every small gesture. There was no bitterness in his face, only tenderness and quiet strength. He didn't see her yet. When he finally did, the mug nearly slipped from his hand. Their eyes met, and time seemed to stop. The noise of the cafe faded away. Only two hearts, once broken by distance and deceit, beat in perfect silence. Emily's lips trembled, her heart racing, as if trying to make up for all the lost years. Daniel blinked, unsure if it was a cruel dream or a blessing too good to be true. Emily rose and walked over, her heels clicking softly on the wooden floor. She smiled gently, her voice barely above a whisper. "Daniel." He stood up slowly, trying to find words, but none came. For a few seconds, they just stared at each other, tears welling up in both their eyes. She looked down at Lily, who smiled brightly. "Hi," Lily said. "Are you Daddy's friend?" Emily knelt, her heart aching as she met the little girl's curious gaze. I guess you could say that," she whispered. The hours that followed felt like a dream neither of them wanted to wake from. Emily learned about Daniel's struggles. how he'd lost his wife, how he worked double shifts to raise Lily, how he sacrificed every comfort for her happiness. She could see the pride in his eyes when he spoke about his daughter, and she could see the pain he tried so hard to hide. Daniel, in turn, learned Emily had never forgotten him, that she had spent years searching for closure she never found. When they parted that night, rain still fell outside, but something inside both of them had shifted. Emily couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Daniel and Lily, about the unfairness of fate and the second chances it sometimes gives. The next morning, she made a decision that would change their lives forever. 2 days later, Daniel received a call from a prestigious design firm, Harper and Hayes Creative Group. They wanted to interview him for a senior designer position. Daniel thought it was a mistake. He hadn't even applied. But something inside him urged him to go. When he arrived at the sleek, glass-paneled office, his heart nearly stopped when he saw Emily waiting for him in the conference room. She smiled warmly and said, "I told you I'd always believe in your talent." At first, Daniel refused. He didn't want charity. He wanted dignity. But Emily wasn't offering pity. She was offering partnership. She told him she remembered his sketches, his creativity, and his heart. She needed someone like him on her team. After a long pause, Daniel accepted, not because of the money, but because for the first time in years, he felt seen again. Over the following months, Daniel's life transformed. He worked hard, regained his confidence, and became one of the firm's most valued designers. Lily adored Emily, often calling her Aunt Em. And though neither Daniel nor Emily spoke of the past directly, their hearts began to rebuild what time had stolen. Emily supported Lily's schooling quietly, ensuring Daniel never felt less of a man for it. Every gesture was filled with unspoken care. One evening, a year later, they returned to that same cafe, the one where they had seen each other again after so many years. Daniel looked around, smiled, and said softly, "I used to come here when I couldn't afford heat at home." Emily looked at him, tears glistening in her eyes. "Now it's where everything warmed up again," she whispered. Lily, sitting between them, giggled and said, "You two look happy. Are you going to get married like in the movies?" They both laughed, but inside, their hearts silently answered yes. And indeed, months later, surrounded by close friends and laughter, Daniel and Emily stood hand in hand, exchanging vows that felt more real than any they could have imagined years ago. The universe had been cruel once, but this time, it was kind. It had brought two broken hearts back together, not by chance, but by destiny's gentle design. As the sun set behind them, Emily looked at Daniel and whispered, "We lost years, but maybe we needed to, so we could find each other at the right time." He smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "And this time," he said, "I'm never letting go."